And we're recording, but we're just not up just yet. So are we about ready? You
Just
all?
let me put my little pen right here so I can look patriotic.
Okay. Okay. Where's the flag from Texas?
Girl, I'm gone from there. I'm somewhere else. I can't work with you
Well,
people.
where's the flag from
Look,
Texas?
as they're getting locked up under slave patrols because they went back. What the fuck? I'm
Unbelievable.
sorry. Pop my hand.
No, it's all right. I mean, it's just they interviewed your colleague Miss Collier last night. It was
Who
like
is they? Who is they?
CNN.
Oh,
No, no, no. I saw her on MSNBC. They were talking about her on CNN.
okay. Well, guess what? If you don't go back, you ain't never arrested, and they don't have no quorum. How about
Oh,
that?
well, she's
Well,
sleeping.
you're saying what everyone is thinking.
Am I?
Well, no,
Okay.
Yes.
just stand by. We're gonna come up because I
Okay.
want you all to put that right here. 'Cause we're gonna tell. We got a lot. We got a lot of ground to cover. Okay, so we are. Just give me. Okay, three. No, I'm gonna go 15 more seconds. It'll make it easier for her to do this. Okay. Okay, stand by. Okay. Five, four. Hey everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. I told you I'd be back in the morning. Love you all so much. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you and to be able to be supported by you to talk about that which concerns you. There's so many issues that we can cover, and we need to cover them from the people's perspective, which is what we do on this show. And so let's get right to it. We've been talking about the Texas state Democrats who Representative Jolanda Jones told us yesterday. Jolanda Jones, that's right. Remember what I told you? That's right. Representative Texas State Representative Jolanda Jones told us, wait a minute, I have to go back under slave patrols. And now it has come out that all of those Democrats who have gone back to Texas are under state surveillance. They are completely being tailed as they move around if they go home. It's unbelievable. And I'm sure the police are outside of their homes just waiting to see what they're going to do. Got to talk about that, everybody. Under state surveillance. That's becoming quite commonplace in the United States because the people of Washington, D.C. are living under state surveillance. And if you look at your computer, thank you, Palantir, we're all under state surveillance. That ought to be concerning to you. But let's talk about mail in voting, which is generally quite safe. 34 countries around the world, mostly European, already do it. 34 countries. And scores of states in the United States vote by mail. Oregon only votes by mail. That's a mostly white state, and as you know, their founding charter refused to let black people in. So it's very, very interesting how uneven the system is, how unevenly our voting rights are applied. So let's get right to it. We got a lot to talk about. We need to look at what's happening in Texas because if they can do this in Texas, they can do this anywhere, everybody. And trust me, it's coming everywhere. If you think DC is the only place that's going to be under surveillance, no, 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 no. They're starting with the black Democratic mayors, but it's going to make their way to these white mayors because when these cuts get real, I do believe that people are going to demonstrate. As you saw during the 20s and the 30s, as we were moving into the Great Depression, when the money gets funny, all honey is off the table. So let's talk about this today. Let's start with Texas, because Texas is something. India Walton from Roots Action, of course, we remember you just knocking on these doors in Buffalo, New York, and becoming the Democratic nominee. And then, after you improbably became the Democratic nominee, the Democratic establishment said, we've got to get her out. Yeah, I'm putting it out there. It's me talking because that's what happened. And Dr. Lakeisha Myers, brilliant educator, former Wisconsin state legislator. Uh, it's like I've got a woman's panel, but we're starting with Representative Jolanda Jones from the great state of Texas. She is running for Congress. Jolanda Jones, like Yolanda with a J. That's right. Now, first of all, how can we get in touch with you? Because you're going to have to campaign unconventionally as you are not in the state. at this time.
Yeah, I can't be because they got slave patrols. And last I heard, I was born in Houston, Texas, a free woman, so I ain't going back to no plantation. It's not happening. But my name is Jolanda Jones, spelled Jolanda. So go to jolandajones.com, push the donate button, and click because I can't be home campaigning like I ordinarily would do because I refuse to subject myself to plantation conditions. And I actually believe that, at least for the Texas State Democrats, it is different than just surveillance. Because if they want for us to go back to the House floor and we make a choice to not go back to the House floor, which I'm entitled to travel where I want under the Constitution, I'm entitled to protest how I like in the Constitution. And if I don't want to vote on that racist map, even if it's against the racist map, I have, as an American, the right to not go. But under the little permission slips that they sign, then the police can literally take custody of my body, which is slavery. I believe it to be an illegal detention, and drag me back to the plantation.
Stop. So,
Yes, ma'am.
permission slips. I need you to go slowly because I think people need to understand India and Representative Lakeisha, Dr. Myers. We need to understand what you mean by permission
They have
slip.
to sign first of all, the last time I remember having to have a permission slip was like in elementary school when I wanted to go to the restroom. I don't remember permission slips in junior high. I don't remember permission slips in high school. But literally, the permission slip says, I, State Representative Jolanda Jones. Let me be clear. I didn't go back because you could anticipate what they were going to do. But I agree to allow myself to be surveilled 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and allow myself to be under the custody of the police to compel my attendance on the House floor the next time they call us to the floor. I'd be
Okay.
damned. I'd
Oh,
be damned.
well, okay. Because see, most of us, India, I think you would agree, Dr. Myers, I think you would agree. We did not know that they were going back under those conditions. We thought they were just going back home, right? But you're saying, no, 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 you had to agree to go in basically into state custody.
Yeah, but let me be clear. They didn't tell us that in advance. But I'm a trial lawyer, a
Okay.
30-year trial lawyer, right? So whenever I go into any trial, to any war, because trial is war, I anticipate how would I get me, right? How would I get me? And then I prepare for that. So if you don't have enough numbers by yourself, which the Republicans did not, they only had 88, right? So they needed 12 of us to be complicit in our own oppression. Now, if somebody's going to be oppressed, you think they're just going to comply? So they use the police to compel us to comply. So if I were them, I would have done the same thing. If I can do it, this is Texas. And so they said, we're not going to let them out of here. There's something called a call of the House. A call of the House says once they get a quorum, they can do a call of the House. A call of the House says lock the doors and don't let nobody out. So I knew they were going to do that for sure. Once they got us on the House floor, they were going to lock us in and we couldn't get out. So since they made quorum on Monday, and because they had to do procedural things, they called us back on Wednesday. Wasn't no guarantee if we saw that things weren't going like we wanted, which Stevie Wonder, Helen Keller, and Ray Charles could see that. How do you get us to come back on Wednesday? Because we might say, you know what? I'm not giving them quorum again. So then you stick the police on them. You can't leave till you sign this permission slip to say that if you don't come back on your own, we can bring you back physically under the custody of the police. I was never doing that. It was easy to anticipate. If you think in the future, if you think, how they going to get me? If I don't want to come back, how can they make me come back? And that was the only alternative they had. And since DPS, the Texas Department of Public Safety, is under the control of the governor, newsflash, if you didn't know what was going to happen, you weren't playing chess. You were probably playing tic-tac-toe. You weren't even playing checkers. So it just wasn't hard to figure out. So I actually thought they were going to lock us in there for 2 days. I'm sorry. I'm a diva. I like to take baths, put on deodorant, brush my teeth. There was no way I was going to be trapped on the House floor because we knew that because they could lock the doors. So they just added an extension to it. Yeah, we're gonna let y'all go out, but we're gonna surveil y'all for 24/7. And if you don't come out, if you don't come back, we gonna bring you back. We're gonna drag you back. No, I would never. I promise you, I wasn't born yesterday. And I got street sense.
Help me to understand. Well, you have one of your colleagues, Representative Collier, who I saw interviewed on MSNBC last night, and she has her neck pillow and blanket, and she literally is sleeping in on the legislative floor. How does that work?
I mean, you tell me. You tell me. I don't understand. I mean, and let me be clear. Nicole is fighting the best way Nicole knows
Absolutely.
how to fight, right?
Yes.
She made a decision to go back. The second we went back, we lost the fight. For people who don't know, let me explain it to you. The only power we had as a Democratic caucus, because we didn't have enough votes to pass or stop anything. In the Texas House, there are 150 members that are 88 Republican and 62 Democrats. In no world does 62 beat 88. So if they have the numbers, why would we go back? The only power we had was to prevent them from conducting business, which was the power of the quorum break. In order to have a quorum of the 150 of us, we had to have a supermajority of 100, where there are only 88 Republicans. So they got to find 12 Democrats. So if we stay gone, they literally can't conduct business in the House, and they can't oppress us in any way, shape, fashion, or form. The second we relinquish that power, they could do whatever they wanted to do to us any way they wanted to do it to us. So I would have never. So for whatever reason, there are some Democrats who didn't want to hold out, some Democrats who said they would only hold out for the first session, which we killed the maps the first session. So the first special session. So I would say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if we're able to fix it then, why wouldn't we do the same thing? But some people didn't want to for whatever reasons. Maybe it was personal. I mean, I missed my granddaughter. I missed her first day of school. But in the scheme of things, I just thought that it was more important to try to save her future than to be there for her first day of school ever, right? But some people went back. So once they got back and they said, hey, the only way we let you out of this chamber, because the doors were locked, they literally couldn't get out. You got to sign this. Nicole said, I'm not signing it. And then they said, well, then you can't leave. You're going to stay right here. Or you can go to your office. So she could have gone to her office. But, I think it was smart for her to stay where she was, because offices don't have cameras. The House floor does. And so people could see what was going on. But I would have never gotten myself into that. And I didn't get myself into that. So that's the best way she knew how to fight under the situation. But I believe the Democrats, for all intents and purposes, gave away 2 Black congressional seats because the constituents in House District in Texas 18 and in Texas 9 now have to compete against each other, where there used to be seats where the constituents voted for 2 Black people, Al Green and Sylvester Turner. They now have to pick one, because for all intents and purposes, they've collapsed those 2 districts, moved them into different places, separated some people, but ultimately a Black person, the constituents can only elect 1 Black person instead of 2, because of how they cracked and packed the Black and brown constituents. So the second we went back, we lost 2 Black seats. And I could never, with a clear conscience, just because that's who I was raised to be, do that. But my constituents, were 10 toes down with me quorum breaking, with me staying broke, and with me not going back. But who would subject themselves to slave conditions? Who would do that? I ain't. So.
Well, I wondered about it. And I'm going to spread this around the panel, because when I saw that the Democratic establishment did not quite know what to do with you. And then President Obama spoke to you as a group um, virtually. I think it was on Friday. And I only saw excerpts of his remarks, but it sounded he was congratulating you for the work that you had done. And I said, "Oh my goodness, it sounds like they were about to go back to Texas." And that unsettled me because as I shared with you, I said, if you leave, you lose all the leverage.
All of it.
If they just start picking you off, and when I heard him, I said, because he's the Democratic establishment now. I mean, love him, all of that. I'm tired of those caveats. I can love you and be critical of you. And in fact, if I love you, I am going to be critical of you because, as my mother says, my mother picks me apart. I think that I have gotten away with something. I think I'm looking fabulous. And before 12, the clock strikes 12, my mother's going to call me. You know what I was thinking? I didn't like that shade of lipstick you were wearing. And I think that hair is just a little too blonde. I don't know. I don't like that. And I didn't like that outfit. Did you lose weight? Did you gain weight? What's going on? She's gonna pick it apart because she's looking at me and she said, "Hey, I'm your mother. You're gonna find that I'm your best friend, but that's not my obligation." She said, "I'm grown enough for you not to like me. I don't care. What I care is that I'm gonna get you before the world does." And well, you know what the thing is, we have to go from where we are now. But India Walton, you had experience going up against the establishment. I mean, and I know Representative Jones, Jolanda Jones, who's running for Congress. What's that website?
JolandaJones.com. Click the donate button. Please
Come
help me.
on.
I need help.
I told you I would keep on pushing it. I
Yes,
know you
ma'am.
think I'm crazy, but that's okay. You jumped at the opportunity to be here to talk about this. What did you make of this?
You talking to me?
Oh, I'm talking.
Oh, yes. No, I didn't know if you were talking to anybody.
Oh, no, but
So
Jolanda, why don't you jump on in and say what you say, and then India,
No,
and then Dr. Myers.
I'm just saying that I think that now we're so far removed from segregation and Jim Crow that just a lot of people are comfortable.
Mhm.
And back when I was coming up in the 60s, we knew about the civil rights movement. Our grandparents were alive. Our great grandparents were alive, telling us stories of what they can do to us, what they can take from us, including our lives, and how dangerous it was just to stand up for something, just to exist. And so we are so far removed from that. Our grandparents, or at least I knew my great grandmother, right?
So did I.
And one of my great grandmothers was a sharecropper.
Okay.
Right? Working land that they didn't even own. So I understand that. But now I just think we're so far removed. And back then, all I heard was stories about how in segregation, we knew that if we didn't support each other, that we wouldn't survive. We knew that we had more doctors and lawyers and businesses. And we knew that if you were struggling, the Black community was going to pick us up. And we knew we couldn't rely on white people or anybody other than us to do it. And so we knew we had to be self-sufficient. We knew we had to have Black Wall Street. We knew these things, but we also know history. When your great grandmother's telling you history and your grandmother's telling you history about how they had to destroy Black Wall Street, how they had to destroy Black excellence because we are dangerous to them. And they needed for us. They were forced to integrate. They didn't even want to integrate. And so I think that America, like Black America, sort of generally thinks that we've made it or that we have the opportunity to make it, which I think oftentimes is an illusion. Because even when we get there, like let's take President Obama, who you brought up. He was the president of these United States of America. They literally didn't respect him. The Republicans voted against his stuff. Their answer to anything he filed was no, no, and no one more again. They didn't respect the office. It was the first time, I believe, that the office of the president wasn't respected, and it's because it was a Black man. So since he got elected, it's like white folks woke up one day, a Black man was president, and they lost their minds. And it's like, we got to take them back. And they have literally been trying to take us back. And that is the problem. Even those of us who are successful, you got better grades than your classmates, and they saying it's affirmative action.
And
Right?
wait a minute. And look, I'm proud to be an affirmative action baby. My parents, our families fought for that. First of all, if I'm affirmative action, that means I have met the baseline requirements which legacies do not meet. Even when George W. Bush went to speak at Yale, of which he is an alum, he laughed. I don't know how I got in here. I'm like, well, I do. And someone I know who I like personally. He's legacy. I mean, so it's like, what is this? And we had an opportunity when they decided to desegregate baseball because we can't integrate. We fought for desegregation. Somebody else was fighting for integration because I'm not white. I can never integrate. We had an opportunity to keep the Negro leagues. They said we can compete with y'all because Josh Gibson was a superior player. Satchel Paige, superior. You can just keep on going. These were the best who've ever done it. But we said, no, no, no. Well, we want to be in the major leagues. We'll just collapse what we've built, the most profitable business in Black America, because we want to be white adjacent. And I'm all about coalitions, everybody. So for my white listeners, understand, I am not someone who does not believe that we all are part of the same family and we need to work together. But you know what? When Italians come here, they create their restaurants, and when you walk into the restaurant, you're going to hear Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra because that's their culture and they love it. And I'm always being told that I need to apologize for mine. And we got to stop that. It's killing us. Killing us. India, oh, see,
So
Jolanda gets me all worked up, all hot and bothered.
This is of particular interest to me because I just had an interview in The Guardian, and a lot of it was centered around my loss in 2021 in the general election. And one of the things I think is responsible for that, besides the fact that the major corporate Democrats colluded with, corporate GOP developers and Republicans and even MAGA Republicans, right? My opponent has some of the same donors as Donald Trump. Aside from that is that progressive Democrats capitulate too quickly. And when I heard that the quorum breakers were going back to Texas, I'm like, why? Why? Right? It seems like there are these huge performative gestures that fizzle out real quickly. And like you said, Rep. Jones, when the Republicans had control of the House, they wouldn't let Obama get anything through. Why is it that Democrats always pretend to be hyper procedural and have no power? And that's what we're looking at right now. And when it comes to being far removed from Jim Crow and segregation, I live in Buffalo. I'm up north, and what's supposed to be one of the bluest states in the country. And I live in the sixth most segregated city and the third poorest of its size in the country. We just had this white boy travel 200 miles to my city, gun down 10 Black people in a grocery store, and now he has his lawyers fighting to get the charges dropped because it ain't enough Black people on the grand jury. It wasn't enough Black people on the grand jury. Right? These are the systems that they are using against us. They're playing in our face, and the people who we are electing to represent us, who are supposed to be the good guys, the Democrats, are doing the exact same thing. They playing in our face. The paychecks and their job security is far more important than the systemic and sustainable change that we actually need to survive in this country when we are all under attack. Let's be real. If you're not a white, cis, heterosexual male, they're coming after you. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Someone has to stand up for us. Because there's a lot of people who don't have the courage to do it right now.
You're welcome.
And you have to say it. I mean, and that's why I had you on yesterday. Yes. I'm going to have you on tomorrow. Yes. Why? Because people need to see you. It's almost like doing your ABCs. Okay. And the Lord's Prayer, which you should do every day, if you're Christian. Okay. The thing is, people need to know what you're up against. People need to know what is happening. People need to know what was left on the table, and a whole lot was left on the table, and we cannot do that again. Because I'm like you, Representative Jones, because India and Lakeisha are younger than we are, and I'm a couple years older than you. I was born
Just
in
a
a colored.
couple.
Well, but okay. But you know what? We're in the same age group.
We are.
I was born in a colored women's hospital in Greensboro when my parents were in college. I mean, I remember they were, uh, Lakeisha. They were having they closed the hospital, but they were about to build another one. I was in college, and they reached out. They said, we know that you were born in L. Richardson Hospital in Greensboro, but you do know that it was a colored women's hospital. I said, yes, I do, and because my mother had given them permission to reach out to me, and well, we're going to uh, build a new hospital, but we want to acknowledge the old. And I said, wow, I was born in a colored hospital, but I was born before the Voting Rights Act.
Me too.
So I'm like, yeah, of course. And my parents could not, uh, they were still fighting to eat at Woolworths when I was born. See, we're not that far removed from it. I don't care how young Jolanda and I look. We're going to do that until she and I die. That having been said, wait a minute. We're not far. And if you talk to your Jewish friends, the kids are as connected to the Holocaust as the people who survived it.
Which is why we got to talk about it.
We got to talk about it. And I come under fire from some of our people when I want to talk about colorism, slavery, and all these issues. I'm like, well, these are things we live with every day. We got to talk about this. Representative Myers, and she's in Milwaukee. Isn't it interesting? We're all in cities where Black folks supposed to be free, and we are living under siege, under the worst conditions in Buffalo, Milwaukee, Chicago. Come on, Texas, the whole
Every city in Texas.
tells you the whole state. Representative Myers, what does this mean to you? I know it means something because, girl, you want to jump through this screen. That's all right.
Well, first of all, I would say that I applaud Representative Jones for doing what she did. To know Jolanda is to know that she is always going to do her, and that is what we appreciate about her most definitely. I think I would put just some other things on that as well. When you think about, and this goes back to a lot of things, when you talked about people who wanted to go back in Wisconsin in 2011, we had 14 state senators that fled the state, and they actually went to Illinois in a similar fashion, not for redistricting at that point, but this was because of Act 10 in the state of Wisconsin, made national news where you were stripping away union rights, all of those things and protections that were going on at that point in time. So this is not something new where people would break quorum and leave the state when they needed to do that. So there's been precedent in Texas even to do that before, of folks actually doing that. One of the things I want to bring up is that when you talk about how different state legislatures operate, I was shocked when Jelon said they locked the door on you. I'm like, lock a door on me? Doing what? No, we're not locking the door. Just me being confined in a space is I know I need to be able to leave when I get ready. That's why I drive my car, because I want to be able to leave when I get ready to leave. But when you think about these things, I want people to put in perspective why Representative Jones is able to do what she does. One of the things is, let's be honest. Does Representative Jones have to be a state representative? No, because she has skill sets and abilities that afford her not to take that $7,200 that she a year to be a state representative. So that's one of the things I want people in the public sphere to understand. A lot of times state representatives do the work they do, and they are taking a short on doing that financially as their job because they love the work that they do. We enjoy being legislators, but I will tell anybody, the 6 years I was a legislator, I paid more money to be the legislator than I took in being the legislator. And in Wisconsin, we made $55,000 a year. So that's what I want people to understand. The other part of that is, so you have states like South Carolina, they make like $10,000 a year as a salary to be a state legislator. So one of the things I want to put out there is economically picking people off to go back to the state. A lot of those representatives probably had jobs. Their income was determined on them being somewhere else outside of the capital as well, because you have to have another job to maintain your lifestyle and your livelihood. So I could see why some of it was the same thing when the Wisconsin 14 left. At a certain point, it's like, okay, we made it through this special session or this call of the House. How long can I economically keep up with that mentality and keep up the ability to do that? And people know that because that's why they're like, oh, we only gonna pay you this little money so we can control. So that can be a form and a tool of control as well. The other part of that is it's interesting for me, and I would love to hear what Jolanda's response to this would be about looking at this from a legal perspective of now transitioning this to a legal fight is what I've been hearing on the news that people have been saying. I think the leader has been talking about transitioning this to a legal fight and doing that in the state. I just want to know what the plan is for the legal fight. That's my only question. The other part of that is the reality of understanding that in Texas, the governor has the ability to call repeated special sessions. So could this continue on well into 2026? And then the other part of that is asking the question about House District 18, and I think it's another district as well. I think it's
I live in that district.
You live in 18. So I know it's Jasmine Crockett's district and somebody else's district.
I'll
I
explain
think
it.
So those three districts that are really being torn apart through that redistricting process of the governor, he called a special election for other folks who have been, not had a representative. But for these particular, for Sylvester Turner's district, it's like, oh, we'll wait until the November midterms to do that. So again, being strategic in that respect, had there been any legal redress from either House Democrats or from the party itself or from somebody in the state of Texas to say, wait, how are you able to call a special election when somebody else's district doesn't have a representative, but you're going to make us wait almost 18 months to have a representative, which the office itself, if anybody's ever been to the Capitol, when you have a member of Congress that passes away, the office staff runs the office, but there's no voting power on anything that happens in the Capitol. There's nothing that can be done there's no proxy that's there to actually cast a vote on the House floor. I want the public to understand that as well. So you essentially have no representative. When you don't have one of those 435 voting members in the House of Representatives, you get constituent services. That's what you get, to the best of their ability of the staff that's working in that office. So these folks have not had, since Sheila Jackson Lee has passed, and the short time that Representative Turner was there, since his passing, no, you get constituent service work, but you don't get an actual vote in anything that's happening. So big, beautiful bill, there was nobody from that district to cast a vote in that situation.
Wait a minute. And
you're at a loss on so many levels.
Let me say this, and to do a carve out.
Yes.
Just
absolutely.
A little bit of a carve out in the bill. I mean, because for the governor to not allow you to have representation for a year, 9 months.
Yeah.
I mean, Lakeisha, that's more.
It's been more than that.
It's probably longer than that. Yeah.
And at least the party they should, and we should get on them about this. Now here I am. Your Reverend has always said, "Cut us in or cut it out." I'm looking up. I'm still loyal to you, and now we've got more Black folks that who are on the committee and who are doing this, that, and other. But I've got less now. Ain't nobody saying nothing. You need what's happened in Texas with Sheila Jackson Lee and Sylvester Turner's seat ought to be a national issue. Exactly. What's happening with these
because it's coming to a state near you. It's happened in other states where they want to curry favor with 45, 47. They want to do all of those things. Just like even looking at redistricting as an issue. This has been something in Wisconsin that we've looked at and looking at our maps as well. You have predominantly white communities that exist, Lena Taylor. So looking at District 4, even in our maps, when we had this fight, a couple years ago, looking at it, they wanted to extend her all the way to the far northern suburbs of Milwaukee County, and then all the way down through the hood, down, to somewhere else. I'm like, these communities have no like-minded interests of people that are in 53206. Anybody seen the documentary 53206? Milwaukee. These communities have no like interest. They are not communities of like interest. And the voting population that happens on election day white communities can easily dilute it would take every black person that was eligible to vote in those districts to vote on those days to pick the person that would be their representative. And that's not the case. Even in that district, you have the dilution of that, because whatever Glendale says and whatever Shorewood says, that's who your state senator will be in District 4. So those are things like people carve out and craft how they're going to manipulate through mapping who can be the best candidate for you. And then don't say you got the invisible hands at play in the background and say, well, you know what? I don't really like, Jolanda, how she responded to this issue. So we're going to make it harder for her to do that. Or I don't like the way Lakeisha responded to this. So we're going to make it harder for that. But we'll pick a palatable person that we like.
Absolutely.
And these two communities get behind them and push them up. That's how you get all of this circumventing happening. So I want people to understand all of the things at play. The economics of how state legislators are paid, and these folks have to have a second job, so they may not be able to stay economically away from the state. But then the other part of it is, like you said, there should have been more Nicoles. I'm not going to be under surveillance.
And it's the economic independence.
Let me say this.
Let me say this. It's the economic independence, which is why an Adam Clayton Powell was so dangerous.
Yes.
He was bought and paid for by black people.
Yes.
He did not need them because he was elected by black folks. Black folks paid him. That was also what, that's why Reverend could run for president.
Yes.
Because it was, and that's
but Santita, but this is what I was going to bring up. So I'm a trial lawyer.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I was going to object to compound for all them questions you was asking me. So I'm going to try to remember what they were. Right? I'm going to try to remember what they were.
Okay.
So first of all, we do get $600 a month, which translates into $7,200 a year. Yep. But of that $600 a month, part of it goes to my pension. Okay. Part of it goes to my health insurance. And then what's left goes to pay my union dues. So I literally don't have.
You get a union too? Look at that.
I'm a union girl. I believe unions are as strong as their dues paying members, right? Period, point blank. Okay. So that's one. My mother was a union steward, and my grandfather was in 2 unions, Pullman Porters and the letter carriers. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. So there's the $600. So that don't go in my pocket. I ain't paying no bills. Yep. Okay. The second thing is I believe that our legislature was designed for rich white people to be in it, because who can afford to work for $600 a month? Yes. You just can't. So I grind for you. But we also have an unusual house because we work 5 months every 2 years. Mm-hmm. Right. So it allows me to work when I'm not there unless they call special sessions. Insofar as can the governor continue to call special sessions? Hell, he did it in the 88th legislature. This was just the 89th. We had 4 special sessions when he was trying to force vouchers down our throats. And we went back and we fought that, right? And we had help from the Republicans to kill vouchers back then. But now that Trump is involved, he's made the Republicans, I'll just say that he's a shepherd, native sheep. Wherever he tells them to go, they go. However, how he tells them to jump, they jump. It's the second question you talked about. The next question that you talked about was not having representation for 9 months. No, it's been longer than that. Congresswoman Jackson Lee died in July of 2024. There was not somebody in that seat with a special election until I think December, and that only it was very short.
But didn't her daughter jump in?
Symbolically,
right.
They were like, let her do it. So she was there for like a month, right? And then Congressman Turner won. He was there from January to March. He died on March 5th. So when you add together from July to December, which is about 5 months, no representation. Congressman Turner was there from January to March 5th. And then we hadn't had representation since March 5th, right? So it's been longer than 9 months. Let me also say this, that in Congress, in addition to you can't vote, which I heard you guys say, you horse trade. Like, how do you get the Republicans or whatever, or other Democrats to vote for something?
Jockey in a negotiation. That's it.
Like, you'd be like, hey, if you let me put this money here, then I'll let you put that money there. So you can't even horse trade. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the departments don't pay attention to staff. Even as a state rep, my staff is working on some stuff and the departments may ignore them. My staff can say, hey, rep, TDHC ain't listening to us. I'm gonna pick up the phone. I'm gonna be like, I'm sorry. This is the Rep Jones. My staff been trying to get y'all to do X, for 2 weeks. My constituent is suffering. So what y'all gonna do? The departments are just gonna jump when we call, right? Because they're used to listening to staff. So you don't have that leverage if they choose to ignore you. So that's a problem. And no, we haven't had any strategy. The Democrats haven't to force the governor. But the truth is, the governor gets to decide when to call specials. He didn't have to call a special. He could have left it open. True story. So there was no way to change that anyway. Right. But if I were him, why would I feel Texas 18? Because Republicans have a slim majority. I mean, the big ugly bill passed by 1 vote. Had I been Texas 18, I'd have voted against it, which would have meant it would have failed. So, I mean, they're not doing things to help our constituents. They're just not. And I will also tell you, when you were talking about how you divide things up, what they've had to do in order for Trump to get 5 seats is they've had to go in. So there's something called an organic majority minority district, which is where, I live in my neighborhood. I want to live in a Black neighborhood. I go find a Black neighborhood. I move there. And may be Hispanic people there. There are some neighborhoods where ain't no Black people, ain't no Hispanic people, right? So it's sort of organic. It's not illegal. The courts have said that coalition districts are illegal, which necessarily implies that they went and they drew districts to put Black and brown people in them together to somehow give them an unfair advantage in electing the representation of their choice. When it was organic, there was nothing. Right. They just happened to live by each other. And so what they've done is said those kinds of districts are unconstitutional or illegal. So they now have literally strategically gone in where there are concentrations of Black people and brown people, divided them up so you could live on one side of the street. You and your neighbor got everything.
Yes.
You and your neighbor got everything in common. Mm-hmm. They went down that street. They put you in one congressional district and your neighbor in another congressional district, like diluting us. And if you look at the maps, if you look at them, you will see that they have white people all together. Right? Yes. Like over an expanse. I mean, far away. And they've got Black people and brown people. They divided us by streets, by blocks. It's racist. And that is what they do. So what they'll do is, if you got all the Black people, and I don't know how it is in Wisconsin, I don't know how it is in New York, but what we have is we have a bunch of racist towns in Texas. So you might be born in a racist town. My people come from Palestine. My people come from Elkhart. My people come from Forney. Well, it's racist there, right? So what we do, we go up and we move to the big cities. So you're going to go to Houston. You're going to go to Dallas. They're probably going to Milwaukee. They're probably going to New York City to leave those racist towns, right? And so that's where the concentration of Black and brown people are, because we left because they was racist back there. And what we've done is we've allowed those towns to be run by racist white people who aren't around Black people. So they don't even know who we are, and they have bad impressions of who we are. And so what they've done is they've gone into the urban areas, which is code for where the Black people at. Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, and they've strategically cut them up. That's called cracking in redistricting terminology and legal. And then they pack us wherever they want to put us. So say, like, for example, in CD 18, if you listen to Congressman Turner, he was so proud to be from Acres Homes, right? The fofo, if you didn't know what Acres Homes was before he got to Congress, you absolutely knew what it was after. Acres Homes has always been in Texas 18. They literally have carved out, like you were talking about, Lakeisha, and they put Acres Homes in a Hispanic district. Mm-hmm. So that group of Black people
is now diluted.
Who vote high, right? They vote high for Black, and it would allow them to choose a representative of their choice in Texas 18. But the second you carved them out and put them in Texas 29, they no longer have the power to elect a representative of their choice. So that is what they're doing. They're cracking up our power and packing it in other places. And which is why in Texas, because of how they've cracked and packed us, it says white people for every 440,000 people get a congressperson. Hispanic people, for every 1.2 million Hispanic people, you get a congressperson. And for Black people, it's over every 2 million to get a congressperson.
Mhm.
That is racist by design. And I believe they have to target Black people in order to achieve their racist goals and to oppress us, because we vote the highest for Democrats. So it's like we got to get rid of these Negroes. We got to stop them from being able to determine who the representation is. And that's what that's about. It's just racist. And for us not to call it what it is, for us not to call it racism is wrong. And so for all of our allies, and Santita, I'm going to speak to your allies. It is really important for white people, for Hispanic people, for wherever you're from, to say the word racist. It's not a cuss word. It's not. And the Supreme Court has literally said it is okay, it is lawful, it is constitutional for Donald Trump to try to get more Republicans in the House. It's lawful. So political gerrymandering is okay.
It's okay.
The only thing that's illegal is racist or racial gerrymandering. So you have to call a spade a spade. And so to all of the people, and let me be clear, I understand this. The worst thing you can do to a racist is call him a racist.
Oh,
The worst thing you can do to a white progressive is call them a racist. And then they try to make us feel bad when we call it what it is, right? We call, like with Karens. When we look at Karens, how they treat Black people different, and they trope us or they caricature us, and they say, oh, you're pulling the race card, and they somehow make it like bad. Let me be clear. I'm not in the business of making ugly things pretty. I'm not in the business of putting lipstick on pigs, because it's still a pig. And if you're racist, I'm gonna call you a racist. And there's nothing you can say to make me change the truth. And to the white people who are like, I don't like, or anybody who's, I don't like you saying that. If you're not a racist, I'm not talking to you. Right? I'm gonna say this one more again. If you're not a racist, I'm not talking to you. And so we need for you to be allies. We need for you to stand in the gap. We need for you to speak truth to power. We need for you to call it what it is, because some people are never going to receive this message from me, ever. But they may receive the message from you.
I do a lot of anti-racism training with organizations and individuals. And a lot of times what I say to people is, you may not be racist, but what about that policy?
Yes, the policy.
What you're doing is racist, right? So you may have the best intentions on being an ally, but you have to interrogate what the policy you're implementing and how that impacts marginalized communities, frontline communities, particularly when it comes to Black women and people of color.
Well, and how that shows up even in how you entertain conversation or think about certain things, because your bias shows up with you.
Well, and we have to understand that representatives are representation. Everyone has a right to the tree of life. Everyone has a right to be represented. This is about removing the bottom-up perspective from the political conversation and from policy. I know I keep going back to Reverend's campaign, but boy, it was historic, and it was something that we had not seen before, and we haven't seen it since, quite frankly. He said, okay, November 3rd, 1983, when he announced, he said, yes, I am a Black man. He said, but you know what? This is an American campaign. For the first time, you will see America from the Black perspective. From the manger up, not the mansion down. And that's what's being removed, that perspective. Because you have white people who have that perspective, like a Dennis Kucinich. They remove him. They've tried to remove Bernie. People who have a perspective that is parallel or very much like our own. At the end of the day, everybody's going to get hit. We're the canaries in the mine. We get hit first, but you're going to get hit eventually. Trust me, they get in DC, Oakland, Chicago, et cetera, et cetera. They're coming to you because guess what? When you look at these town hall meetings and you see where civil unrest is going.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. I only have like 4 more minutes here with you all. And what a conversation this has been today. What a blessing this is. I'm gonna let you close this out, Yolanda Jones, because people want to hear from you. And what's exciting Former Wisconsin State Representative Lakeisha Myers, brilliant educator Dr. Lakeisha Myers, is that we see the fight. And that's what's exciting. That's what I was telling you, India. It's seeing the fight that makes you go, oh, yeah, I'm all in. Wait, where is it? I mean, look, lashes on, all of that. We want the fight. And you looking fabulous doing it.
Thank you.
Girl, you and I met each other when.
And we was like this. I was
We
like,
were-
oh, that's my yeah,
what,
diva.
what, what's up, girl? Because I was making noise with my jewelry, but that's how it goes. But Representative Myers, what do you want people to know? Because I think we have to come together because we have to help her to get the word out. We have to call these preachers and say, you need to pipe her into your service because you have to come up with an unconventional campaign and you can still win. You got 900,000 black and brown people in Texas who aren't registered to vote.
Right.
You got some young people, some rising seniors in high school, some kids who just came out of high school who you're supposed to register according to your state law. But we need to reach them and say, hey, look at what's going on here. You got someone sleeping on the floor with her pillow. Come on, Representative Myers. And Dave says, have the Texas Republicans authorized law enforcement following you all to use lethal force?
So here's the deal. I mean, police officers use what they like. Y'all know one part of my practice is that I do criminal law. So, for example, I don't want to go to the floor. I've signed that plantation permission slip, right? And I say I don't want to go. The police have the authority because I signed away my constitutional rights to arrest me because I would argue right now that they're illegally detained because they don't have freedom to move where they want to move. If they grab my arm and I do this, then I'm resisting. That's a criminal charge. If I sit on the floor and say I'm not going nowhere, and they can charge me with interference with police duties. So right now, the warrants or the detention is civil, but it could easily escalate into criminal. And depending on how hard I fight to stay away from there, they'll decide what force they use. So it's really a dangerous situation to be in because you also don't control as a person that they're detaining, whose rights that you are violating. You also don't control their response because we know that you can go into a church and shoot up black folks and they won't kill you. They'll take you to Burger King or Dairy Queen or wherever they took him. Where if you're black, you can look at somebody that they don't like or and don't comply and they kill you. So it could easily escalate to lethal force. I mean, I heard that one of my colleagues did want to do something and the detention officer lost her. Like she wasn't doing nothing illegal. She was just walking and the police officer, the DPS officer lost her and then was mad at her that he couldn't keep his eyes on her. So you mad because you can't do your job. So that's just dangerous. It's just a dangerous situation to be in, which is, again, is why I'm nowhere near Texas.
Yes.
I'm at an undisclosed location and I'm not going back to my oppressors. I'm not going to be forced to participate in the oppression of my constituents. I'm not going to do it. I'm not constituted like that. And I've been black all my life and I'm going to die black. And I appreciate the struggles of your daddy and other people who came before him. And so I just was not going to do that. I think, at least for me, that's a bad look as to model behavior for young black people.
And for your granddaughter. For your granddaughter. I told you.
For my granddaughter. Yes,
you want her to see that. Oh yeah. I mean, I can say, wait a minute, I know somebody who stood 10 toes down and put on a bulletproof vest and coat. And folks told him all day long, we're going to kill you. And he kept on going.
And I literally have had a conversation with my son about if one day I don't come home, because so many of my friends are just like, Jolanda, you know, I'm concerned about you. You got to keep your head on a swivel. Like if I'm on the phone with one of my friends, like, and it's on my car and I'm talking to them and I get home and I'll be like, they're like, I'm gonna get off the phone because I need for you to keep your head on the swivel. Like, I don't want you paying attention to me. That's what it's like for me. My life is constantly just trying to make sure that I'm paying attention so I can't get got.
But see, and that's why you can't be alone. because, and that's why as we talk to you about these churches and people knowing who you are, because we still have an underground railroad.
And that's something else I was going to say, Santita, that I
Okay.
forgot. You were talking about the money, like some people got to go back. During segregation, during the Montgomery bus boycott,
Oh, yeah.
the community had all them people who ain't have no rides, who couldn't pay their bills, or who got fired because they refused to catch the bus and they couldn't get to work. The community had them, which is why it was my understanding that we were raising money in order to be able to help us sustain ourselves. And then there's even a question with the money. We didn't ask about the money. You know, I hadn't heard there's $2 million was raised. They literally gave the Black Caucus 25,000. Like, huh? Help me understand that.
What,
25.
Jolanda,
I swang line. So when we're asking for accountability, where does money at?
and
Right?
you need to find out. Because I'm gonna tell you, there's some people who get it. Well, you know, you cannot. When you run for president, you know you can't earn any money. So Bill and Camille Cosby called my parents and said, "Look, you do know. Now I know Jesse will jump on out here, Jackie. You do know. I know you ain't got no money, and you got to lease babies in school. You do know you can't. He can't speak. You can't do any of that, right?" My mother said, "Yeah, I know, but we're out here." They said, "No, we got you."
I fly around the country and speak. People can actually
Yeah,
hire me to speak, right?
they can do that with you. But I'm just letting you know there's
Yeah.
some people there. We've had some folks, and that's part of the reason they took him out. Because you've had some people who said, "You know what? I got you. We got Benny Pelote down in Savannah, Georgia." And so we just need to know, we need to sit. That's why we have to sit down and talk. Because there's some black police officers and some other police officers who are going to watch out for you so that you can keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Because what you're doing is so important.
Yeah,
But
my
we
head
have-
always on a swivel.
Well, and you know, and it can stay on a swivel, but you can have some other people who really understand this, and they'll say, "No, you stay right here because I want you to be freed up to do what you need to do. Because we need you to do what you need to do." I've lived this. I know this. That's why I'm trying to share this with you. That's why when you came here, because when I met Lena Taylor, the Wisconsin state senator who was running away, they came to push like y'all did. Because we take in all the people running for freedom. And that's what we have to do. And we have to come back together. And maybe this moment, as challenging as it is, the blessing is we're going to have to come back together.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of getting an individual meal at Kentucky Fried, you get a bucket. And you don't get 5 pieces of chicken. You get 1 or 2, and you're going to be fine. You might not be full unto the point of having to loosen your belt, but you have eaten. Now I'm telling you, this is what we got to do. But we're gonna keep on going with this because I got to move to the next hour. But you know, I love you. Now, Representative Myers, I'm giving you a minute, but I'm gonna connect all of you with each other so we can figure out how we can help you and help each other because India needs to run for mayor again or whatever it is she wants to do.
I'll come campaign for you.
Yeah, no, we're gonna do this. I already told you that when she came up here in this past summer. We have to do it. We don't need to wait for anyone. Well, look, honey, ain't nobody coming up on some white horse to save us. We got this. We got this. We're Harriet. Come on, we're gonna do this. Representative Myers, excuse me, Dr. Myers, who's been representative. I don't know what else you want to do, but that's all right. You still representing and helping our children. Dr. Myers, 1 minute.
What I will say is that I want the public to take away from this conversation, for those that are listening, is to not be what Reverend Jackson called a stone that was unturned, and to be one of those people that actually gets into the fight. It's fine to watch it on MSNBC. It's fine to say, "Oh, I really like that Yolanda Jones. I like her attitude. I like her spunk that she brings to her job." But what happens after that? Pay attention to what's happening in your own municipality, even if you're not in Texas, because what happens in Texas is coming to a door next to you. Mm-hmm. So that's what I want people to think about and get into the fight. This can't be a spectator sport. You need your money on the line. We need people to talk about it in real time online and have facts that back up things online. It's a lot of fake news that happens out there, but you got it from the horse's mouth today that could tell you what was happening in Texas today. So you can go back and correct what people may have said. "Oh, they just running away. They're not trying to do their job." All of those things. The last thing I'll say, money answereth all things. That's one of my favorite scriptures because it's real true. Mm-hmm. The reason that she's able to stay away from home to do this work and not work and have income, all these things. We have to start putting our money on the line. Church is some of the best real estate that we have in every major American city, the Black church. If you own a storefront building or you got a nice cathedral, that offering plate needs to go around at least once or twice for people who are doing civic work to help our people in these different states and in these fights. It's not just for the doorknobs that need to be at the church that you ain't fixed yet.
That's
It
right.
needs to be there to help civic engagement. And like you said, doing the work will happen from us. It's an organic process. So make sure you still vote and don't be a stone that's not there. But then also make sure you help representatives like Jolanda, and then also making sure that we actually utilize our real estate for civic
I'm
engagement.
running to the next hour, you know, y'all, because I'll time out for India Walton, Roots Action, but you said it all. I appreciate that, Dr. Myers.
Yes, second to everything you said, Dr. Myers, and organize. And like you mentioned, these rising juniors and seniors who are about to turn 18, I don't know what the early registration situation is, but get these people engaged in high school before their voting age. Make sure folks stay informed and organize. What happens in Texas is going to eventually impact all of us everywhere we are. A terrible precedent is being set. And I have to hop. I got to go to another appointment. I love you, Santita.
I love you.
Thank you again, Representative Jones, for everything you're doing. And it was very nice to meet you, Lakeisha Myers. And I will see y'all very soon, I hope.
No,
JolandaJones.com. Donate.
Boom. And we're going to connect all of you because this is the network that we're looking for. Come on, this is it. This is it. This is it, y'all. This is it. Okay.
We are the hope that we are waiting for.
That's it. Okay. This is it. This is it. So I love you. And Jolanda, I will reach out to you later. With your permission, I'm connecting everybody by text.
Yes.
And let's get this thing going. Okay?
Let's get it done.
Let's
Thank
get it. It's already going. So let's direct the train. How about that?
Yes. Why don't we do that?
Come on, that part. Looking fabulous. I see your hair, the color. Love it. Oh!
Yes.
AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Love y'all.